Hello everyone, hi! So in this video I want to talk about the literature courses I'll be taking this semester. In case you're new here, I'm Maria and I study comparative literature at the University of Vienna, and this is my 4th semester, which means I'm halfway through my studies. Pretty crazy. Here on my channel I really care about making the process of studying literature transparent. So let's take a look at which books and papers and essays I'll have my nose in over the next few months. And I can also give you some first impressions, because as I'm sitting here, I'm 3 weeks into the semester, which means that I know by now which courses I'll be taking for sure. I have met the professors, I know what I'll have to read. I'm also happy to report that I got into all the courses that I wanted to take, those that were really important to me. And the semester start is always a little bit crazy, like people are still changing their minds all over the place. And I always really struggle with choosing courses as well, because there's just such a lush offer of wonderful courses I want to take. And yeah, it's kind of hard for me to choose. So I'll talk about the courses I'm taking for sure in the first part of the video. There's going to be 7 in total. And then I'll talk about the ones that I'm interested in, but I'm probably not following as closely in the second part of the video. And last thing on the agenda, if you're enjoying these videos, please consider supporting the channel. I always leave my Ko-fi account in the description box below. Okay, let's get into it now. One is called the Commedia dell'Arte and the Theater Tradition of Europe. So this course is all about the origin of theater, and the Commedia dell'Arte, which I think came from Italy and is like a traveling group of actors that has influenced theater all over Europe, basically. It's really fascinating. My professor has apparently worked on the Commedia dell'Arte for 30 years, and he is Italian and actually organized that a Commedia dell'Arte actor from Italy will be coming to us and do a workshop with us at some point. So I don't know, that's so exciting. Overall, I'm just feeling like this course is not a topic I would have initially chosen for myself. I mean, I did choose it, I just felt somewhat lukewarm about it. But happily, my professor is really passionate, and that spark jumps over to students, I guess. And I'm just really excited to learn something more about theater, because it's another one of those areas of literature that I don't know that much about. A few videos ago, I think I talked about wanting to read more essays, because I don't know, I always default to just reading novels, but there's so much more to literature, so I'm really glad that I think this course will give me a really robust understanding of theater. I'm just sure I'll take a lot away from this. So some topics will be, for example, how Molière was influenced by the Commedia dell'Arte, or Mozart and the Commedia dell'Arte, or Shakespeare and the Commedia dell'Arte, or the Commedia dell'Arte in Vienna. And this is a seminar, which means that what's going on with me today? I keep mixing up words, which means I'm going to have to do a presentation and write a paper about a specific topic that I choose. I would like to do my paper on Mephisto by Klaus Mann, which I actually haven't read yet, but I would like to. Mephisto is a novel about an actor, I think in the 1930s or something. It's based on a true story. That actor always plays Mephisto of Faust, I think, and he lives in Vienna, and when the Nazis slowly take over, you can observe how he adapts to the regime. It's basically about his, moral downfall. Anyways, there's lots of talk about theater and the role of theater in that novel. And of course, he is an actor, he plays Mephisto, and there's a lot of masks and things like that. So I hope I can, work on that a little bit. I just find it fascinating to think about the outside pressures that artists are under and how they deal with it. So I'm very happy about this. Can't wait to learn more. The other seminar I'm taking is called Uncanny Social Criticism, Gothic Fiction in the 20th and 21st Century. So this course is about the socially and ideologically critical aspects of horror literature. You know how often spooky stories are really just allegories where something that we have repressed either individually or collectively returns in a distorted form. That's the idea. So you can look at Gothic fiction kind of at face value and say, oh yeah, okay, a ghost, a vampire. But if you read it, or if you choose to read it on a deeper level, those creatures represent something, they show us something. So it's about bringing those two things together, Gothic, horror, fiction, and then how does it represent something in society, or how could it be critical of society. So, as I already said, it's a seminar again, so I'm gonna have to choose a topic of specialization and do some research, deep research and writing on it. And I have chosen, of course, as the name of the rose. When I saw it on the list of proposed topics, I was like, dips. The Name of the Rose was my favorite book of last year, and I'm stoked that I can work on it a little bit more. I might want to zoom in how the library in The Name of the Rose has this exclusivity. You know, there's some people who get to enter it and others don't. And then there's some people who get to read specific books and others don't. And some people know where the books are and others don't. And I think I just want to take that and then riff on how basically the same thing is happening in our society when we deny certain people access to education. I'm thinking that could be an interesting angle, but I don't know. I have a lot of ideas. I've been putting off sending an email to my professor with an actual proposal of what I want to write about, because in my mind it's this huge web of interconnected topics that could all somehow go in there, like the problems of control. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm feeling disproportionately bubbly and inspired. So I'm sure it's not going to be a problem to write a few pages on whatever topic it ends up being. Ah yeah, on the reading list, amongst others, there are novels of Franz Kafka, H.P. Lovecraft, Shirley Jackson, Ira Levin, Anne Rice, Stephen King, Umberto Eco, of course, Thomas Bernhard, Toni Morrison, Elfriede Jelinek, Daniel Levsky with House of Leaves, and we already read a short story by Joyce Carol Oates, and we're reading a lot of Freud in the course, of course, and his theories on what happens when we're scared or when something is uncanny. Very fascinating. So in this semester I'm taking my first courses in the extra curricula specialization domains, which basically just means that I get to choose different specializations for my degree. And there's a huge list of courses to choose from, like literally so much is possible. I could specialize in history or entrepreneurship or Greek or politics. Like, it's an overwhelming list of which I have to choose 3, which means I'm also getting a little bit of insight into different different departments at my university. And I've made my decision, and I've chosen subjects that are pretty close to literature and just, most aligned with my interests. So I'm gonna do a specialization in German literature, one in philosophy, and another one in aesthetics and cultural philosophy. I'm stoked about that. So let's get into my first specialization, German literature. I'm so happy about this. I've always felt like German literature is such a gap in my knowledge, because I obviously live in Austria, I grew up here, but when I really got into reading, I spoke mostly English at the time. I'm really into languages, so I've always looked elsewhere, not in my immediate surrounding, language-wise, for literature content. So I'm so happy to finally fill that gap and also get a little bit of a feeling for the German literature department in Vienna, because I've almost chose to study Germanistic, so German language, literature and culture. So it's nice to see what I missed and didn't miss when choosing comparative literature instead. So the first course I'm taking for this specialization is called The History of German Literature from 1848 until the present. Truly, the title says it all. We're learning about which philosophies, historical events and so on have shaped the literature of a certain time period, who were the important authors. Yeah, all I can say is that it's a very demanding course for two reasons. Firstly, I just know nothing about history, man. I'm just, wow, it's embarrassingly little that I know about the history of my own country. And so every time I'm just looking around and I feel like it's kind of clear for everyone, and I'm hearing these things for the first time. Wow, okay. And secondly, I have to read one book a week for this course, which is fine. It's just only one of my courses, you know, and the books aren't super big or anything, but there definitely is a discrepancy between the workload of the course and the minuscule amount of credits you get for it. But hey, I'll show you what I've already read. Marie von Ebner-Eschenbach, Das Gemeindekind. Gerhard Hauptmann, Die Weber. For next week, I'm reading Arthur Schnitzler, Leutnant Gustl. Then for the week after that, Death in Venice by Thomas Mann. So yeah, I'm a little bit sweating getting through all that every week. But it's fine. I think there'll still be coming up some novels by Peter Handke, Frieda Jelinek, Thomas Bernhard. Yeah, overall, it's great that that gray area in my brain that was nothing when I thought about the history of German literature now becomes something. That's what I can say about it. Additionally, in the German literature extra curricula, I have another course called Letter Writing in German Literature in the 20th Century, which is a little bit hard for me to get into, not gonna lie. In theory, it's very interesting, right? We're talking about the medium of the letter, how it has influenced literature. Is it literature? Who does a letter belong to? We're talking about theories from Kafka, looking at letters by him, looking at letters from Else Lasker Schüler, or the correspondence between Paul Celan and Ingeborg Bachmann, which I really enjoyed when I read it. It's just, I don't know, I can't even really tell you what I don't like about it. It's just a little cryptic to me. Like, I don't really know what is expected from me in this course, and it's a little bit ethereal. We've analyzed some paintings and how Kafka said that letter writing is somehow spooky, and I'm just, okay, but like, how does it all go together? So yeah, that course is a little bit on the chopping block, not gonna lie. Let's see if I actually continue with it. Then moving on to the next block of extra curricula in aesthetics and cultural philosophy, I'm choosing a course on Theodor Adorno, who is one of the most important and I think impressive thinkers of the 20th century. He was a philosopher, musicologist, and social theorist, and you might know him from being part of the Frankfurter Schule together with Walter Benjamin, Max Horkheimer and Erich Fromm, and other people, but they were all analyzing modern society through the lenses of Freud's theories and Marx and Hegel. And I'm just so drawn to their way of thinking. Anytime I had to read something or got in touch with any of the writings by these people, I just thought, wow, how intelligent and how well thought through. Adorno in particular, I'm just feeling intimidated just thinking about him. He had an insane output and just knew so much about so many different areas of life. He really did do everything. I think he's most known for his writings, Dialectics of Enlightenment and Negative Dialectics. In the course, we're gonna talk about this philosophical self-reflection, musical criticism and theory, his social psychology, education, language, philosophical writing and reading, dialectics of enlightenment, the cultural industry, art and society, aesthetic theories. So yeah, I'm just extremely inspired. It's also great because the course is Monday morning, so it's the perfect way to start into the week with a good dose of critical thinking. And I really love two things about him. One of them is that he constantly corrects himself and just is very aware of not making any kind of definitive statement. And then the other thing I really like is that he draws from all different kinds of aspects of life. Like my professor said that in his writings you'll see words and concepts and things all next to each other that you wouldn't have usually connected. And I don't know, to me that's really the mark of a free thinking person and something that I want to protect in myself as well. Yeah, you bet I'm gonna make some kind of deep dive video about him or something in the future. And then there's another extracurricular course that is called Introduction to the Psychoanalytical Perspective on Culture and Social Phenomena, which is about understanding social phenomena through a psychoanalytic lens. So this is so fascinating. Again, I totally love this course. We talked about last week, for example, about Freud's psychology of the masses. So, you know, what happens when people follow a fascist leader? What is their thought process? What do they hope to get out of it, right? So fascinating, because I think a lot of work is done on finding out how fascist leaders are. But what is so much more interesting, in my opinion, is what makes people want to follow them. And yeah, just the whole course is about basically psychoanalyzing society as a whole as opposed to just one single person. Again, we'll talk about the distribution of power, fascism, anti-Semitism, climate change. We'll be using, of course, a lot of texts by Freud, but also Adorno and Erich Fromm. This course is also going to be complementary to some of the other courses I've already mentioned. And now that I've told you a little bit about the extracurricular, you can really see that often they're kind of straying far from literature, right? Like this course about psychoanalyzing society doesn't necessarily have anything to do with literature. And that's kind of the point of these extracurricular subjects, is that you're doing something completely different, and by doing that you're kind of breaking out of your literature bubble a little bit, and you can bring different things in. So already we're getting into the territory, into the waters of courses that I don't necessarily need for my degree, but it's fine. I've been very disciplined over the past 1.5 years, and I have progressed enough in my studies that I can chill out a little bit now and do a few courses that are maybe not strictly necessary, but just for my interest. There's one more course though that I have counted into the 7 courses that I definitely want to take this semester, and that is at the Comparative Literature department again, back home, and it's called the Library in Literature. This course is both about the history of libraries and about libraries in literature. So we're talking about what libraries can symbolize, what function they have, how they can be structured, for example. It connects very well with the topic of the library in the name of the rose that I want to write a paper about. So that's a big reason why I'm following this course. Oh yeah, let's take a look at what authors are on the syllabus for this course. David Lodge, Robert Musil, Jorge Luis Borges, Umberto Eco, Elias Canetti, Arno Schmidt, Thomas Mann, Bertolt Brecht, Kafka, Goethe, Tieck, Italo Calvino, Miguel de Cervantes. Gonna be a good time. It already is a good time. Okay, that's the 7 courses. Now I'm really getting into the extra courses that I'm not strictly following at all. So Sometimes I'm just enrolled so that I have access to the scripts and I can work through them in the summer holidays or something. So another course from the comparative literature department that I really don't need but sounded so good is Censorship in Literature. The title again says it all. It talks about the history of censorship and zooms in on a few important works and their history of why they were censored and all that. And it's just a very beautiful end to my week to visit this course. I'm usually there with Sophie, with my friend, and we get a coffee. And I don't know, the professor speaks with a very to-bed-putting voice, and it's just, I'm always very zen when I go out of there. And the professor wants us to read, I think, 5 books. Yeah, Heinrich Heine, Deutschland ein Wintermärchen, Gerhard Hauptmann, Die Weber, Gustave Flaubert, Madame Bovary, Vladimir Nabokov, Lolita, Salman Rushdie, The Satanic Verses, and Klaus Mann's Mephisto. Other very other courses on the periphery are History of German Literature from 1600 till 1848. Then there's a course called Approaching Literatures in English, which is about getting a toolkit to analyze literature, but then English literature. I guess that's a little bit different than doing research in German. It says it aims at enabling participants to understand and apply the basic concepts of literary criticism. Then there's a comparative literature course called Dance Texts. I think that is analyzing the history of dance, so sacred dances to theatrical and social and stage dances, and then analyzing that through texts. I guess I really don't know what it is about, to be honest. And then there are a bunch of courses in the philosophy department about the history of philosophy, the philosophy of media, one about Indian philosophy that I want to have access to. Overall, I'm very excited about this semester. I feel as though there are a lot of themes that come back in different courses, and I really love when that happens. And I also feel like I've never been this excited about the selection of courses that I've chosen. And I've also never known so well what it is that I want to do. So yeah, let me know if there's anything you would like to learn more about. You know, I'm very open to doing a few different videos. I definitely want to make one video in the middle of the semester, again, where I'm just talking about everything I'm currently learning, to give you a little bit of a view into the studies again. And that is it, my friends. We made it through. Thanks for bearing with me. I'm feeling very chipper today, and I hope to see you all again in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye.